What if every time you defended yourself, you were secretly handing away your power? What if the very act of explaining, justifying, or proving your worth wasn't protection, but surrender? Think back. The last time someone accused you at work, in a relationship, in a friendship, what was your instinct? To explain, to justify, to clear your name. And in that moment, did you notice a shift? You were no longer the one in control of the conversation. You were no longer the authority. You were on trial. This is a trap most people never see. Defensiveness bleeds power. It tells the other person that their judgment matters more than your reality. The moment you defend, you acknowledge their authority. And here is the paradox. Even if you are right, even if your defense is flawless, you still lose. Because power is not about truth. It is about perception. So ask yourself, why do rulers, kings, and masters throughout history rarely explain themselves? Why do they let silence, contempt, or a simple shift in frame speak louder than 1,000 words of defense? Because they know the hidden law, the one who defends kneels. Why defensiveness weakens you, psychological shock. Psychologists have long studied the effect of defensiveness in human interaction. At its core, defensiveness is a biological reflex, a desperate attempt to preserve social belonging and status. When attacked, the body floods with cortisol. The mind scrambles to protect the ego. We argue. We explain. We justify. But here's the cruel twist. In social psychology, defensiveness is subconsciously read as an admission of guilt. Have you ever noticed how a calm person who refuses to explain seems untouchable, and the one who rushes to defend appears small? The principle is ancient. He who protests too much looks guilty. It's not logic. It's not fairness. It's perception. Humans are wired to believe the confident, not the correct. The silent, not the shouting. The calm, not the flustered. So when you defend, you think you're saving face. But what you're really doing is shifting the frame of reality from your world into theirs, from your authority into their courtroom, from your power into their hands, the prison of their frame. Imagine a courtroom, not one of justice, but of perception. The accuser points a finger. The audience watches. And what do most people do? They rush to the stand. They argue. They explain. They present evidence. But here's the truth Machiavelli understood. The moment you enter the courtroom, you have already lost. Why? Because you did not choose the stage, the rules, or the role. They cast you as a defendant, and you obeyed. Think about your own life. When someone says, "You don't care about me," do you defend? When someone says, "You're not qualified," do you list your credentials? When someone says, "You're wrong," do you scramble to prove you're right? Every defense is obedience. Every explanation is submission. And the accuser knows this. Even if they don't consciously see it, they feel it. They feel their frame tightening around you like a net. And the crowd, your colleagues, your friends, even strangers, see it too. Because power is not who is right. Power is who controls the frame. The mirror of Machiavelli, Niccolò Machiavelli in The Prince, warned rulers never to put themselves in a position of weakness. To defend is to appear weak. To justify is to confess dependency on others' approval. Machiavelli knew a ruler explains only when he has already lost control. So ask yourself, how many times have you defended yourself when you should have stayed silent? How many times have you tried to prove your worth, only to feel emptier after? How many times have you walked away thinking, why did I let them put me on trial? The answer is simple. You fell into the frame. You accepted the role of the defendant. But Machiavelli offers a darker, sharper alternative. Flip the power instantly. The psychology of silence. Here's where modern psychology meets Machiavelli's ruthless insight. Silence, contempt, and refusal to defend yourself are read by the human brain as status signals. In studies on authority bias, researchers found that people naturally defer to those who speak less but with more finality. Why? Because silence suggests certainty. Silence suggests I don't owe you an answer. Think about leaders, bosses, or even celebrities you've seen under attack. The one who releases endless statements, interviews, and justifications rarely survives intact. The one who says little or nothing often rises untouched wrapped in an aura of mystery and untouchability. Silence is not weakness. It is contempt made visible. And contempt, in the game of perception, is dominance. Why you defend and why you must stop. So, why do you feel the desperate need to defend yourself? Because your mind is trapped in an ancient survival mechanism. For most of human history, rejection meant death. To be cast out of the tribe was fatal. So when accused, the reflex is primal. Prove your worth. Explain your innocence, beg to stay inside. But in the modern world, this reflex enslaves you. In politics, in business, in relationships, it marks you as weak. Machiavelli understood, a ruler cannot beg to be accepted. A ruler decides who is worthy. And the first step to power is breaking the reflex of defense. The frame you never see. Consider this. When someone accuses you, the words are not the attack. The frame itself is the attack. If you defend, you've already submitted. If you justify, you've already admitted their judgment matters. And if you protest too loudly, you've already confessed weakness. So here's the first lesson. Never defend yourself. Not because you are always right. Not because you are untouchable. But because defending is kneeling before a throne you never chose. Instead, you must learn to flip the frame. To refuse the courtroom. To turn the accusation into your weapon. This is not passivity. It is the art of turning a shield into a sword. Machiavelli whispers through the centuries. Power is perception. Perception is frame. The one who defends has already surrendered. So pause. Reflect. In your life, how many times have you surrendered without knowing it just by explaining yourself? And more importantly, what would your life look like if you stopped? Because the moment you stop defending, a strange thing happens. The attacker falters. The crowd wonders. And you remain untouchable. Part 2. Machiavelli's wisdom and the art of the frame. Machiavelli's ruthless eye. Niccolo Machiavelli lived in a world where one misstep meant exile, prison, or death. Florence, in the 16th century, was a city of shifting alliances, betrayals, and sudden executions. Machiavelli observed rulers rise and fall, not because they were right or wrong, but because they understood or failed to understand the theater of perception. And from these brutal lessons, he wrote The Prince, a manual not of morality, but of survival. One of his most shocking insights is buried in his reflections on leadership. The prince must appear strong, decisive, and above the judgment of others. To stoop down into defense is to admit weakness, because the crowd does not want a ruler who begs for approval. They want one who commands reality. The frame is the throne. To Machiavelli, power is not in armies or wealth alone. It is in the frame. What is the frame? It is the invisible set of rules that define reality in a given moment. If your enemy frames you as guilty, the crowd sees you as guilty. If you accept their frame and defend, you play the game they designed. But if you refuse the frame, if you flip it, you remain the sovereign. Machiavelli knew. The throne is not a chair. It is a frame of perception. Whoever controls the frame controls the people. This is why kings rarely answered accusations. Why emperors did not explain. Why rulers did not justify. Because to explain is to obey. Historical echo, the silence of power. Look through history and you will see it. Julius Caesar was accused of corruption, ambition, and betrayal. Did he defend? Rarely. Instead, he acted, framed his rise as destiny, and let victory speak louder than words. His silence terrified more than speeches ever could. Napoleon Bonaparte was called a tyrant, a warmonger, a usurper. His response? Not endless defenses. He reframed himself as the savior of France. He turned accusations into proof of his greatness. If they hate me, it is because I am too powerful to be ignored. Modern leaders, the ones who last, rarely defend themselves directly. They either dismiss with contempt, shift the conversation, or let silence breed mystery. This is a Machiavellian way. Never let the enemy cast you as a defendant. You are the judge. You are the frame. Why people defend and why Machiavelli mocked them. The average person cannot resist defending themselves. Why? Because they think power is about truth. If I just explain, they'll understand. If I prove my innocence, they'll see I'm right. But Machiavelli would laugh at this naivety, because the masses do not follow truth. They follow strength. And nothing reeks of weakness more than desperate explanation. He wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Notice, he did not say it is better to be understood. Understanding is not power. Fear, respect, awe, these are power, and these are never gained through defense. The three Machiavellian tactics instead of defending. So what do you do when accused, attacked, or challenged? Machiavelli offers no gentle answers. He offers ruthless tactics. 1. Reframe the accusation. When accused, never argue inside their frame. Instead, turn it. If they call you arrogant, reframe it as confidence. If they call you ruthless, reframe it as necessary strength. If they call you cold, reframe it as discipline. The trick is simple. Accusations become compliments when you redefine the terms. This is how rulers survive. They turn weakness into a symbol of strength. 2. Attack instead of defend. Machiavelli knew that passivity is death. If you defend, you are passive. So what do? You counterattack. If someone questions your loyalty, question theirs. If someone doubts your ability, expose their incompetence. If someone frames you as guilty, frame them as jealous. The attacker expects you to kneel. When instead you strike, the frame flips instantly. They become the defendant. You remain sovereign. 3. Withdraw into silence. Sometimes the most Machiavellian move is not attack, but contemptuous silence. Why? Because silence suggests that their words are beneath you, that their frame is irrelevant. Machiavelli understood human psychology. Contempt is deadlier than argument. An enemy who is ignored shrivels. A crowd that sees your indifference reads it as strength. Silence is not retreat. It is the most brutal form of dominance. The dark art of perception. What Machiavelli revealed is unsettling. Power has little to do with being right. The innocent man who defends himself looks guilty. The guilty ruler who stays silent appears untouchable. The weak man who explains seems weaker. The strong man who reframes or ignores seems stronger. This is a dark art of perception. People do not care about truth. They care about how truth appears. And this is why never defend yourself is not just advice. It is a law of survival in the game of power. Why this feels so wrong, but works. You may feel resistance. You may think, but if I don't defend myself, people will believe the lies. This is a trap. Because when you defend, they believe the lies even more. Why? Because defense draws attention to the accusation. Defense shows weakness. Silence, reframing, or counterattack leave the accuser looking desperate. And the crowd, deep down, always trusts the one who seems least concerned. Think about it. The accused who yells, pleads, and explains looks guilty. The accused who smirks, shrugs, or walks away looks powerful. Unfair? Yes. But Machiavelli never promised fairness. He promised power. The sovereign mentality. To live Machiavelli's lesson is to shift your identity. No longer are you the defendant waiting for approval. You are the sovereign granting or denying it. This is a radical mindset. You do not owe anyone defense. You do not need to explain. You do not beg to be understood. The sovereign does not enter other people's frames. The sovereign builds their own. Machiavelli's wisdom is sharp. Even cruel, never defend. Reframe, attack, or ignore. Because the moment you defend, you hand over the throne. But the moment you refuse through silence, contempt, or counterstrike, you remain the sovereign of perception. And that is the essence of power. Not truth, but frame. Not defense, but dominance. So the next time someone tries to pull you into their courtroom, remember this. You are not the defendant. You are the judge. Part 3, Practical Applications, and how to train yourself in the dark art of perception. From theory to battle. We've explored the philosophy. We've seen the history. But here's the truth. Knowledge without application is nothing. Machiavelli would laugh at a man who memorizes strategy but cannot execute in the marketplace, the office, or his own home. So, let us bring this into the real world. How do you, today, walk into the arena of life and use this rule? Never defend yourself. Step 1. Recognize the trap. The first step is awareness. When you are attacked, accused, or mocked, your nervous system screams, defend, explain, prove them wrong. This is the biological trap. Humans are wired for social survival, to protect their reputation. But Machiavelli whispers, the very act of defense destroys the reputation you're trying to save. So the moment you feel that surge, the panic to explain, stop, breathe, recognize this is a trap. If I defend, I lose. Step 2, reframe instantly. Now, instead of defense, you reframe. Reframing means turning the accusation upside down. Examples. They say, you're arrogant. You respond, confidence offends the insecure. They say, you're cold. You respond, discipline is mistaken for a coldness by those who lack it. They say, you're ruthless. You respond, strong decisions look ruthless to the weak. Do you see? You never defend. You never accept their words. You bend the words into your crown. Step 3, counterattack with precision. Sometimes reframing is not enough. Sometimes the attack must be punished. This is when you go Machiavellian. You strike back. If they accuse you of disloyalty, question their loyalty. If they imply you are weak, highlight their failures. If they call you fake, expose their hypocrisy. This is not petty. This is war. Machiavelli knew the best defense is attack. The attacker expects weakness. Give them fire instead. Step 4, master the weapon of silence. The deadliest option is silence. Why? Because silence is ambiguous, and ambiguity terrifies people. Imagine this. Someone insults you in public. The average person argues back. The strong person smirks, says nothing, and walks away. What happens? The crowd does not think he must be guilty. They think he's above this. He doesn't even need to respond. Silence makes the attacker look like a child shouting at a wall, and it leaves you untouchable. Step 5, practice in small battles. You cannot master this overnight, so you train in small arenas. Next time someone teases you, resist offending. Reframe with humor or silence. Next time you're blamed at work, instead of explaining, redirect the frame. Let's focus on solutions, not excuses. Next time someone questions your motives, ask them back, why does this bother you so much? Each time you resist offense, your power grows. Each time you refuse to kneel, you rise higher. Modern arena examples. Let's break down where this rule applies today. 1. Workplace power games. You're in a meeting. A colleague undermines you. I don't think you have enough experience to handle this project. The average worker defends. Actually, I do. I've worked on... Weak. The Machiavellian reframes. Experience follows leadership. And leadership is about vision, not years. Now the crowd nods. You flip the frame. 2. Relationships. A partner says, you don't care about me enough. Defensive response. Yes, I do. I've done all these things. Weak. Reframe. If I didn't care, would we even be here having this conversation? Powerful, calm, sovereign. 3. Social media and public attacks. Online, critics love to bait you into defense. Someone comments, this guy's a fraud. If you defend, you validate. If you attack, you escalate. The Machiavellian move? Silence or a playful reframe. If being a fraud means living free, I'll take it. Remember, online crowds admire strength, not explanation. The inner transformation. This is not just a tactic. It is a shift of identity. The defender believes he must prove himself. The sovereign knows he does not need to prove anything. This is why Machiavelli's rule cuts so deep. It demands that you stop being a defendant in life. Stop waiting for approval. Stop begging to be understood. Instead, live as if you're already king, already judge, already emperor, because perception follows belief. If you believe you must offend, others will see you as weak. If you believe you owe no defense, others will see you as strong. A daily exercise, the mirror of sovereignty. Here's a ritual to train this. Every morning, look in the mirror and say, I owe no one defense. I owe no one explanation. I am the sovereign of my reality. Then visualize walking through the day as if every accusation, every doubt, every insult slides off you like water. You do not kneel. You do not explain. You do not justify. Over time, this will rewire your nervous system. The urge to defend will weaken. The power of sovereignty will grow. The brutal truth, you will lose people. Understand this. If you live this way, some people will hate you. They will call you arrogant, unapproachable, heartless. Good, because those who demand defense from you are the ones who seek control over you. When you refuse, they cannot use you. And when they cannot use you, they reveal themselves. Machiavelli would say, better to be hated for strength than love for weakness. The final Machiavellian affirmation, never defend yourself, because defense is surrender, because defense is weakness, because defense is kneeling in someone else's courtroom. Instead, reframe, attack, or stay silent. In all three, you remain sovereign. In all three, you remain untouchable. And so, remember, the throne is not defended. The throne is claimed. And the one who never defends never loses it.